Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry back again today. No One Piece chapter this week, unfortunately. I guess we'll cut back to that next week to see what's going on. Personally, I think Kaido's just gonna slaughter everybody. That's just how that's gonna go. But today, we're talking about Burn the Witch Chapter 2 in the 4-chapter limited run series. But oh wait, Barry, is it truly a limited run series? Yeah, a little bit of news has dropped since the last time I've talked about Burn the Witch. That's right, Burn the Witch will continue in a Season 2, which is awesome, because I tell you what, I love the 4 chapters. I've read all of them, of course. I'm going to be reviewing them on the off weeks with no One Piece chapter, but I'm going to tell you, the 4 chapters are great, but, like, it had me wanting more, definitely. Probably, like, the OVAs that are going to drop later this year, in October, I believe. Next month is when the OVAs are going to be coming out. Yeah, they're probably just going to adapt these chapters, and so that's good for that. But definitely there's more you could add to these characters in this story, so a lot of people thought we were going to get Season 2. I'm guessing what Shonen Jump was doing was, you know, Kubo did the original pilot chapter 2 years ago, and then they're like, okay, let's do this limited run series to see where this goes, but maybe they might have told Kubo, like, it's a good chance of it getting picked up, because I don't know, like, I feel like if Shonen Jump would have went up to Kubo and said, 4 chapters, that's it, there's no way this is going to go further than that, I feel like Kubo would have definitely restructured the story a bit, like, introducing all the members of, like, the top of the horns, you know, last chapter. It's just like, what would be the point of introducing all of those, like, top characters? Kind of like introducing, like, the captains in the Gote 13, but Bleach was only going to end in, like, 4 chapters after that, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So, maybe they came to Kubo and said, alright, here's what the deal is. You know, come out with these 4 chapters, and if they do well, if they meet a certain threshold, if they sell well, then we'll have like an expanded series beyond that. And so maybe you could set up some characters and some more stuff for later, because it could go either way. I don't know if that's what happened, of course, but that's just a good idea as any. But okay, let's just dive right into Chapter 2 of Burn the Witch, titled Ghillie Suit. Have the chapter pulled up on my laptop here, and we start off with the pulse-pounding action Taito Kubo is known for. We start with a tabloid program. That's right, Kubo's just doing TMZ, so yeah. Alright, so remember, Nina was the lead singer, or still is the lead singer of that band, Cecil Die Twice. And there's another member of the band called Macy. I'm gonna say her name is Macy Balgure. I feel like it's pronounced that instead of like Balger was the other way I thought it could be pronounced, but I'm gonna go with Macy Balgure, and she's really cool. She has a nice little swirl in her hair. I like that. It reminds me of Trish Una a bit from Golden Wind. So she abruptly exited the band, and we see an image of her and Nina on the tabloid program, and Macy's kind of like you know, like hugging Nina, but they're kind of like, you know, like embracing each other, and we're gonna find out more about that at the end of the chapter. But she abruptly just left the band, and that's going to tie back into the actual story later on. And remember also at the beginning of the last chapter, there was that scene where Nina was just storming through London, and everyone was like taking, you know, pictures of her on their phones and stuff, and be like, Nina, talk about what's going on in the band, Nina? And she's just like, freaking annoying, and she just dives into reverse London, and everyone's just like, okay, what was that about, right? So the thing to keep in mind here, remember, I think Kubo really loves depicting modern society, like things like television programs. Like, remember in Bleach, remember Don Kanonji? That was the whole premise of that little mini arc in the Substitute arc, introducing Don Kanonji, was he was this spiritualist on like a television reality show kind of deal, right? So I think Kubo really likes doing that kind of stuff, but for the vast majority of Bleach, he didn't really get the opportunity to, because most of Bleach takes place in, like, you know, the Soul Society, which is like feudal Japan, or Hueco Mundo. You know, I'm not sure. I feel like Kubo had a lot of fun writing the Substitute arc, and then we got to the Soul Society, and that kind of shifted the whole story to different realms and stuff, and he kind of got back into that later on when he did the Fullbringer arc. But keep in mind, you know, Bleach, the modern equivalent of Bleach was like 2003, because, like, Bleach started, I believe, in 2001, so, and then there was like a time skip, like a 17th month time skip in Bleach. So by the end of Bleach, it was only like, well, there was an epilogue that goes 10 years later, but like at the beginning of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, it was only like 2003 and stuff. So now I think Kubo is definitely intending this Burn the Witch series to take place more in like our modern, like maybe 2018 when the pilot came out, or now 2020 this is meant to be taking place in. So like, I'm just saying, like, the internet and things are gonna have maybe more of a play into this than they did in Bleach, for instance, right? That's one of the reasons I also really really like the Bount arc in Bleach, you know, because it took place in the mortal world again, and you had like references to that. Okay, so anyway, somebody is watching this press conference on this TMZ kind of knockoff before the computer monitor that they're watching just explodes, and the person watching it is like, "Thank you, Ellie, for destroying that monitor. You carried out my will for me," you know, implying that whoever was watching that press conference was really, really pissed about the stuff that they were saying. I wonder who it could be. So now we cut over to Reverse London, and this is an awesome scene that really does establish this world a little bit involving Noelle, and kind of has a lot of world building. So in the pilot chapter, we find out that there's light dragons and there's dark dragons. You know, the dark dragons are like the evil dragons that want to devour humans just for the sake of devouring humans, and they're usually held at bay by the Sabers, which are the other group of the Wingbind organization. But then you have the light dragons, and the light dragons are the good dragons, but they also serve to aid humanity in Reverse London in a bunch of different ways. And so we got to see that in the pilot chapter, like the Woolly Wally, which were like these giant dragons that were covered in thick fur that were used for textiles. And there was another type of dragon called conductors, which basically generate electricity. So the way that Reverse London kind of like evolved, like they had like a different kind of evolution with like industrialization and stuff like that, whereas in like Front London they had like the Industrial Revolution with like steam power and stuff, and in Reverse London they have the internet and everything and smartphones in Reverse London. It's just that their way of doing things centers around dragons. So like electricity is generated in Reverse London, but it's generated through dragons. They have these dragons called chariots, which are radio wave boosters. So instead of cell phone towers or like mobile towers, you know, you have dragons that are flying around and sending out the signals. There are these other dragons that are basically little tiny pots for plants, like little ceramic pots, and they're called planty potties. I love it! I love it! I love this kind of world building crap, Kubo. I love it. So you see Noelle living in her little apartment in Reverse London, watering her planty potties, and they're like little ceramic pots, but they have faces and they can walk around. They're like Pokemon. I love it. They're just like walking around like boop, 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 boop. And Noelle's like, "Good morning, everybody. Here, have some water." And then Wordsworth, who is her broom buggy, emerges. The broom buggies are basically like the familiars. So like the equivalent of like Noelle's like cat or dog, you know, if you know, the like witch familiar kind of deal. And this is actually a really clever idea. The broom buggies, as you can imply from their name, are their brooms. So obviously Noelle and Nina, they had, you know, brooms that they were riding on in the last few chapters. Those are actually dragons as well. So they're broom buggies, and they're also their companions. So Noelle's is named Wordsworth, and Wordsworth brings the paper to Noelle, and so she's reading that. And then there's a few other dragons we find out here. There's one that has clean water filtration called Buttercase, and then there's one that's basically like a flying mobile bus. It's like a flying dragon bus called the Reptliner. You know, and they even show like Reptliner Bus Station 26, and so it's just like, it's like, all aboard Reptliner 26. Ah, dang it, I missed the Reptliner. That's all right, another dragon's coming. We'll take you where you need to be. Where you going? West Side? All right. You know, so it's really cool. I love the Kubo is, you know, taking no pauses here. He's just like, okay, we've already established the characters, and then I had to reestablish them again in chapter 1. Now we have to get into some world building crap, and I love it. So as extending on from last time, we have Baldo, who is currently residing in Reverse London with Noelle right now. And so he's living there, and he's got Osushi with him, the dragon that, you know, is the guise of a dog. And so Baldo, you know, he's a nice guy. He just kind of like is really oblivious. Like, let me give you Baldo's character really quick. Baldo's character is just like, he's in this fantasy world, but he just kind of goes with it and just in a nonplussed sort of way. He's just like, yeah, I'm a dragon. What was it called? It was a dragonclad. That was it. I was going to say dragonkin for a second. No, that's D&D. He's a dragonclad. So he's just like, yeah, I'm a dragonclad. I just attract dragons, you know, whatever. Oh, Sushi, you're such a cute doggy. I know you're a giant dragon that could fly me away and burn entire towns down, but you're such a cute little boy. Hey, Noelle, you want to go down the street and get a burger later? You know, it's just like, he's living in a magical fantasy world with dragons everywhere, and he's just like,
Yeah, dragons are a thing. That's crazy, huh? Anyway, what's on TV tonight? You know, he's such a cool. He just rolls with it, right? So whatever. And reverse London, like I said, isn't that much different than regular London. They still have the internet. They probably still have YouTube. They still have everything. It's reverse YouTube. That's all it is. So Noelle gets the paper and she looks at the front page and she's very surprised by it. And so she kind of tosses it over to Baldo. And there's this funny scene where, because they're living in the same apartment and because Baldo has like this huge like thing for Noelle, there's a curtain dividing, like a la I Love Lucy. There's like a curtain, like, this is my side of the apartment, this is your side of the apartment. And it's really funny because from Noelle's side, it just has like a big welcome sign on it. So basically Baldo is like, oh yeah, you could come into my side of the apartment every time you want, Noelle, it's fine. And then on the opposite side, in Baldo's side, going into Noelle, there's a sign that's like, closed until you die. You know, closed till you die. So basically, like, yeah, he's like, yeah, come on, Noelle, you can come on my side, but yeah, Baldo's not allowed to just walk in on the other side whenever he wants, which it's her apartment, so I guess that makes sense. So, another really, really interesting part that I love here is that the newspaper. So the newspaper actually functions as the London press for Front London and also the Reverse London press, which I love. And in order to activate, like to switch in between the different variations of it, you gotta, if you're a witch or a wizard, you gotta press your thumb to like this logo on the newsprint, and then it actually physically like warps and changes into the Reverse London press. So, you know, Noelle's like, read this, Baldo, and then he's like, oh, I can't because I can't do a magic scan. And Noelle's like, oh my god, fine. And then, so she does it, and it, like, switches over to Reverse London. It's the same thing with, like, the streets, how the street signs, like, flip. It's not like they magically poof. It's like, that's, like, mechanical in a sense, where it just kind of, like... And then with the newspaper, it's just like, it just opens like this and then just transforms into the Reverse London press. So I really love that stuff. So the thing is, Noelle actually got first, like headliner in the newspaper because she was one of the headliners for Wingbind. I guess every day in the paper they have, like, here's the best member of Wingbind that did something crazy the other day. You know, who else did the most impressive feat of, like, wrangling a dragon or something like that, whatever their department is, right? I guess if you're a member of Sabers, it was like, okay, this member of Sabers took down a dark dragon yesterday, so they get, like, you know, Wingbind member of the day, right? The thing is, no, Noelle got, like, the front page from the London Reverse Press, and, you know, because she did that attack last chapter, we didn't really get to see the results of that, but we got to see her taking out one of the dragons with that giant keto spell, and so that's the thing that got her front page. And Nina's very upset because it's like, I was there too, I did stuff, how come you got on the front page of the damn newspaper? And they're like, oh, whatever, this kind of stuff happens. They get interrupted because they get a call from the branch, they get a call from their the chief of the Pipers, and his name is Billy Banks Jr. This was something mentioned in the pilot chapter. I don't know if it was mentioned last chapter, but Billy Banks Jr. is the chief guy, the scruffy dude with the cigarette that's just like, hey, come on, I'm just trying to be the chief here. You know, that kind of guy. And so he's calling them into work on a Saturday, which I love that because it's just like they treat it once again as just like, yeah, we fight, and like, well, they don't fight the dragons. They're kind of trying to rear in the dragons, or like their preservation activities is more for the Pipers. But they treat it like a normal job, you know, like working at the store, like when I used to work at the dollar store, and just like, hey, Matt, can you come in on your day off? And be like, can anybody else do it? Like, okay, I'll be there. You know, like, it's kind of like that. Like, oh, there's a dragon, there's something up with that. It is a Saturday, come on. But something that definitely doesn't happen too much in our world is that the boss is offering them 5 times the original pay grade in order to come into work on a Saturday. So, yeah, that's something that doesn't happen around here. I never got that opportunity. I mean, you might get, like, time and a half, maybe overtime. Not even a lot of places do that. But imagine that. It's just like, yeah, you're going to get 5 times your normal pay if you come into work on your day off. It'd be like, okay, that's fair. So even though it's their day off, Nina and Noelle are like, well, Yeah. So they go into work and they find out from the chief that there's a situation in West Reverse London. So there's a dragon that made its way into the country. However, it's being kept illegally. That's a really big deal. I mean, it doesn't even matter if it's not a dark dragon, like any dragon being kept by anybody without like following the proper documentation work or filling out forms or whatever. That's really, messed up. In fact, it's even something more like Sabers would deal with rather than, or some other district would deal with rather than Pipers. But the chief is like, well, no, it turns out that we're supposed to preserve dragons and like rear them in. That even includes illegally reared in dragons. So there's somebody somewhere in the Western District of London that has an illegal dragon. I'm like, okay, cool. That's something. We're going with this. And so for some reason, Baldo also has to go with them. That we'll find out about this later in future chapters. But we find out that the chief has like, oh yeah, there was also a special request that you take this kid with you because he's a dragon clad and he basically works as a magnet for dragons. You're looking for an illegal dragon, so that should be able to connect the dots there. They even give Baldo a freaking little, like the mantle, like the flannel mantle that freaking Noel and every other members of the Pipers wears. So he's got the flannel mantle and he also has a pipe, but it's not the cool like wand pistol pipe that like Noel and everybody uses that they can use like the Keto with. It's like literally just like a trumpet. They give him like a toy trumpet and they just toss it to him and they're just like, wear this stuff. And it's like, it just kind of screams like a knockoff, like this is like the auxiliary pipe that we give to, the new recruits of the Pipers or whatever. We ran out of the cool pistol wands, so just take this trumpet. So they hand him that stuff. Baldo, of course, very happy individual, very optimistic kind of fellow. He's just like, oh wow, this looks awesome. Check out my flannel mantle. And they're like, okay, cool, that's great. Let's go. So they start heading off. They see an explosion in the distance from a random building. At first, Nina doesn't want to go because they're like, explosion at a random building in the Western District of London probably has nothing to do with the dragon that's illegally being kept there. And Noel's like, it very well might, so we should probably go check this out. And Nina's just like, fine, and they go. So they go off, and this is something like what I was saying last chapter, and this is something I really like. So, don't think of this like the Living World Soul Society kind of deal. Reverse London is an exact reversal of actual London, meaning every building that exists in real London in our world exists in reverse London, because this building that the big explosion happened in front of was the home office for The Realist. The Realist was that tabloid magazine that printed those articles about Nina and Macy. And so there's a reverse version of this that also exists in reverse London, okay? So like I said, it's the same thing. Like if there's a McDonald's in London, there's also the McDonald's in the same exact location in reverse London. We also find out that these two worlds are linked in a variety of different ways. One of the most notable ones, though, is that if an accident were to occur and a building were to collapse or something in reverse London or regular front London, it would happen in the opposite land as well. So it's like it's all tied together. So if this explosion happened here and damaged part of this building, probably the same amount of damage happened in front London. They would probably just call it like a gas explosion or something. So everything is connected in that way. So there is fantasy aspects, but it's still modern society. So it's that cool juxtaposition that Kubo's doing, and I'm really enjoying that. Freaking Baldo. Baldo there is just looking up and he's just like, this big explosion happens and they fly over to the building. And he's like, man, this is the building for The Realist. Wow, it's a tall building. I've never been here before. This is crazy. This kid is gonna end up like, he's just gonna end up falling off one of the brooms at one point and be like, wow, I've never fallen off a broom before. This is crazy. And then like Noel has to sweep in and like grab him and be like, wow, hi Noel, that was nuts. I almost died. How are you doing? We should go get some coffee later. This guy is just he's just not affected by like anything. But anyway, so there is a little, there's also that little argument they have where it's just like, hey, Baldo, use your amazing dragon-clad magnet powers to zone in on exactly where the dragon is. And he's like, I don't have those kind of powers. Dragons just kind of show up to where I'm at. I don't have like some sixth sense to like sense where they're at or anything. It's like, well, what good are you then? Oh, man. We also find out the name of Nina's broom buggy is Marshall. So Marshall and Wordsworth are Noel and Nina's respective broom buggies. So there was an explosion that happened. But then they also notice, they look up, and apparently the building is empty because it's a Saturday, so everybody has the day off. But they look up and they see there's somebody in the window, and some guy also said, yeah, we saw someone go in there earlier and there was a big explosion. So Nina jumps on her broom buggy, goes all the way up to one of the, so this is happening like you know, several stories up, like 10 stories off the ground, and she enters the building. Turns out that it's Macy. So Macy, the ex, I believe she was a dancer. We find out in the later chapter she was a dancer for Cecil Die Twice. She shows up, and she's there wearing a very, very cool little, like, coat, trench coat thing with the swirly hair, and she walks out, and she's like, oh, hi, Nina, how are you doing? And she's like, hi, Macy, what are you doing in the magical reverse London with dragons? You're not supposed to be in the magical reverse London with dragons. You're supposed to be in the normal, non-dragon front London. And Macy's there, and she's like, oh, I just came here to destroy this building because it was a tabloid that, you know, published those really mean, you know, stories about you. And, by the way, you get the impression that Nina really doesn't care about any of that. But, you know, they're like, oh, Nina's like, well, Macy, you understand this is reverse London, so this isn't the tabloid that, you know, released those stories. That's the other one. But Macy's like, yes, but if I destroy this building, then the other building will collapse too, right? And Nina's like, yeah, but why do you want to destroy a building? That's not cool. And so they get into a bit of an argument, and then shit kind of really hits the fan when all of a sudden a dragon emerges behind Macy, and it's pretty, you know, this is the illegal dragon, of course, but it's kind of grown up a bit, and it's pretty big, and Nina kind of freaks out like, oh, Macy's the one that has the illegal. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Like, that's going to require more paperwork for one thing, but this is like somebody that Nina really knows. And this person, Macy, also cares a lot about Nina as well. And so they get into a bit of an argument. You know, Nina's telling her, you know, like, I'm telling you this for your sake. Please back away from that thing, and, you know, we can help you out. But if anybody sees you with that dragon, it's not going to end well for you. This is for your sake. And Macy's like, but didn't you tell me that if somebody's doing something for just my sake, they're probably lying? And it's like, oh, crap, Macy. No, you don't understand. You're in a magical dragon universe now. Just back away from the dragon, please. And we see there's a bunch of different types of dragons in this world. This dragon could easily become a dark dragon, so there's a lot of concerns here, and Macy has no idea what's going on. So the dragon begins to kind of approach Nina. Noelle appears, there's like a hole in the ceiling where Nina arrived, in like the window. So Noelle appears, takes out her pistol wand Piper thing, and then shoots Ellie. Ellie is the name of Macy's dragon, that's the name she gave her. And so shoots Ellie right in the head, and that kind of deters the dragon, like stuns it a bit. And there's this hilarious scene where Noelle arrives, and she's really cool, you know, she's very stoic kind of character, and she's just like, oh, that was the illegal dragon all along, you know, and I'm just like, aren't you happy to see me for, you know, saving you from that? And Nina's just like, I can't really be happy in this situation. So they're not like having a back and forth in any major way. It's just like they're co-workers. But the second Macy lays eyes on Noelle, she starts like shaking, and then she's like, who are you? Why are you talking to Nina like you're her friend? And Macy, just superhuman strength, picks up a giant metal cabinet that was just sitting in the office and just chucks it at freaking Noelle. And Noelle's like, whoa! She's like, what the hell is wrong with you, lady? And Macy is just freaking out, throwing office supplies at her. And Nina is just like, oh, yeah, Noelle, okay, so number one, she has feelings for me. Which, aw, that's adorable. But two, she's also the jealous type. Like, really jealous. Like, seriously jelly. Like, anytime any other girl talks to me, she starts throwing large objects at them. That kind of jelly. So, that's crazy, because it wasn't even like Noelle. Like, that could have been played up huge. That could have been played up. Like, freaking dragon was coming at Nina, and then Noelle could have appeared at the window with the pistol and just like, bang, bang, and just be like, miss me, Nina? I guess you need some help. Like, it could have had something like that, and then Macy would have freaked out. No, it was literally just like a, oh, I guess that's the dragon. Yeah, that's the dragon. Okay, so anyway, Macy Balgure, how nice to meet you. I'm Noelle. I work for the Pipers. We're just gonna get you out of here. And then she's like, stay away from Nina! And just like, okay. Oh, all right, I guess. Okay. Anyway, so that's a situation there, and we don't really get to see much more of else what's going to go down there. A big explosion happens, and out from the explosion we have the last scene of the chapter where a really badass looking guy with awesome hair arrives with a cow skull on his t-shirt, and his name is Bruno Bangknife, who is a member. He was the head of Inks, so the Inks, the Magic Circle department of Wingbind. He arrives with a big explosion, and he's like, "Oh, you're not dead yet, huh? Well, I need up to write an incident report for this, but yeah, you're gonna be coming with me here." And so now we're getting like the higher ups of Wingbind involved in all this, and that's where the chapter ends. Noelle looks over at him, and Nina gets. It seems like Nina's gonna got hit, and she's falling down off the building. So Noelle goes to grab her, and then that's when Bruno shows up. So Bruno attempted to use an explosion to like blast everybody out of the building, but it didn't work. Because Noelle caught Nina, but she might be very well unconscious right now, and so that's the end of the chapter. So I guess we'll see where this goes. I've read chapter 3 and 4, so I know exactly where this goes. But I'm loving this, because, so it's basically just 2, 3, and 4 are the chapters that have this consistent little mini arc story, and we kind of, like I said, even at the end of chapter 4, it's not like a, oh, this is a good ending for the story right here at the end of chapter 4. There's like, that's clearly not what Kubo was going for there. And maybe it was even after chapter 1 was released that maybe Kubo found out, like, chapter 2 is probably going to happen. And, a season 2 is probably going to happen. So yeah, just keep it rolling, Yeah, I'm not really sure how Kubo was told how this works. If he was told, like, keep it going, keep it open-ended, or if he might have been told if it doesn't work out, maybe he might have had 2 endings. Maybe that was a thing, too. Maybe he could have done that, because he had, like, 2 years to plan this. Maybe it could have been something like, if it goes well, use the open-ended kind of conclusion to the limited run chapters. If it doesn't look like it's going to run well, and it doesn't look like there's going to be a continuation, try to wrap it up nice and neat. I don't know exactly what the situation was, but it was an amazing chapter, a lot of world building here. I really like Macy's character design and everything like that. We got some more personality from Noelle and Nini, or Nina. I'm probably just going to call her because that's way easier. And then Balgo, or is it Balgo or Baldo? Well, too late now. But yeah, he's just kind of in the background being a guy. He's just like, yep, I'm just here. I'm just being a side character back here. How you girls doing today? So it's cool though, because Noelle and Nina, they're great MCs for this, so I definitely want to see more of this. Yeah, and we'll get to chapter 3 whenever there's a next break for One Piece. Couple of things. Next is going to be the Reverie Part 8 that's coming up tonight on Roger Base's channel. I'll leave a link to that below in the description. So Reverie Part 8, be there for that. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is where Roger's out in California. So that'll be today. And then also I wanted to leave a link to a video I did collaboration with James Hansen. He did a video on the 5 special war powers of Bleach. So we got Ichigo, Uehara, Kenpachi, Ichibei Hyosubi, and Aizen. Aizen's the least important one, but Aizen was one of the ones that I voiced over, so it's okay. But yeah, go check that out below as well on James's channel. Thanks for watching, everybody, and let me know how you feel about how this Burn the Witch whole thing is going, and how do you feel about the season 2? Are you excited? I'm pretty excited, and no spoilers, but we get to see Bruno really show his stuff in the next few chapters, what the Inks department really is, and it's pretty damn cool. So see you back here next time, guys. This will be Tekking, signing out.